Another night, another game, another Rutgers basketball loss. This time to Wisconsin. Some spirited fight in the second half by Rutgers, but just too deep in a hole. The hole was formed early in the game when Rutgers just couldn't get much of anything going. Wisconsin shooting absolutely lights out in that first half. Couldn't miss a damn thing. Rutgers at points couldn't hit the broadside of a barn shooting the basketball. We've seen that before. Frustrating. I think two of the most frustrating stretches were right after halftime, where Rutgers really turned up on D. Ace comes right out of the half, hits a three-pointer, and Rutgers is getting stop after stop. And there was a long stretch where Wisconsin was struggling to put the ball in the net, yet Rutgers just could not capitalize. Just couldn't get the ball to go down no matter what they did, and it allowed for that gap to be maintained. When Rutgers starts hitting shots, Wisconsin starts hitting shots. Rutgers cuts it all the way to three very late in the game, I believe, with around 5 minutes left. But again, that's another just frustrating stretch where no matter how many stops they got on Wisconsin, no matter how close they could pull, they just couldn't be efficient on their own side of the court, could not get things to fall. There were times when JaMychal Davis, shoots the ball and it's an awesome shot, goes straight down. There were times when Davis drove the lane and it was a great result. There were times when Durkak shot or drove the lane and it was great. But then there were other times where, those guys took one step too many, or passed up a shot that could have been viable. There was a specific possession late in the second half where, Durkak gets the ball out on the perimeter on baseline, fakes the defender jumps past him, and he should have gone up and shot the ball, but instead he tries to drive, can't convert. There were a couple situations like that, kind of upsetting. So, a home loss. We said if Rutgers could win 3 out of 3 on this homestand, they'd be right back into things. They need to win 2 to stay alive here. So, 1 down, 2 more to go against some tough teams. UCLA is going to be a real tough test. So that's at the end of this little homestand. So, got to win the next 2. If there's one positive to take from this game, and props to, I forget if it was, I'm such an avid listener of, to Richie and Mike and Craig and obviously Aaron Brightman. One of them or both of them on those shows said that they needed to get Tyson Acuff more involved. He's a polished scorer. He was brought in here to score. And, all of a sudden, what a revelation. Acuff comes in, 17 points today, was hitting from 3, had a lot of misses from 3 too, but hit from 3, was able to create off the dribble a bit, was able to get the ball moving, and I thought really showed that he can potentially be that third scorer on this team behind Dylan and Ace. And then the other revelation being, Dylan Grant getting in there. There was, when the team played its best ball, and I don't think it's an indictment of these two guys per se, but the team played its best ball today with Acuff in there and with Grant in there, banging down low, converting on an alley-oop, hitting the boards, playing defense, playing tough. And I think we spent so much time this season because this is who was getting run. This is who we brought in. This is who we paid NIL to. Talking about how the coaching staff could better set, Martini and Hayes up for success from beyond the arc, and the fact that they weren't doing enough to do that. But what compounds that complaint really is, not only were they not setting Martini and Hayes up for success when they're choosing to play those guys, but if you don't have a plan or you just can't get those guys to produce for you, what the hell took you so long to get Tyson Acuff and Dylan Grant in the game more frequently and give them more run? Because we are deep into the season now in January, and this is the first time I'm seeing either of those guys for extended minutes. Now, I know Acuff had the foot injury, but he was supposedly healthy. He was playing. He hit a shot or two in the beginning of the season. Why did it take so long to get these guys involved? And Grant, we saw, it seemed like he only got in for spells, like when you wanted to punish one of the other guys who was actually going to get playing time, you would put Grant in. But up until today, we didn't see him for any real length of time. And all of a sudden, you see these guys playing, and all of a sudden, we're playing defense, we're hustling, the ball's moving. I mean, what took so long to get these guys in the game? I don't know if it's the result of just the specific circumstance of having our back against the wall. Dylan Harper, once again, not feeling well, got a little bit of run, was not able to do much. I think he had 4 rebounds, no points, was sat most of the game. But I just don't understand how it took so long to get these guys involved. That's an indictment on the coaching staff, too. If you got guys that you have, whether it's Acuff you brought in, he was supposed to be this polished veteran scorer to pair with these 2 talented freshmen. And if you bring a guy like Grant in because he plays your brand of basketball, why are you worried about playing other people like Martini when you could be playing him? I don't understand that. The team looked like they were fighting through screens much better in the second half with that lineup. You know, it was Acuff, Williams, Jamichael Davis, Grant, and Ace. And I thought that was a pretty good lineup. You had Durkak come in at times, and I thought he complemented it well. But it's interesting that once again, we're at another iteration of this rotation. We still haven't figured out a rotation that's going to be effective for this team going forward. This is maybe the 4th iteration that we're trying out, and now it looks promising, but other iterations of the rotation have looked promising in the past and haven't really panned out. So I'm not getting excited, especially when Rutgers loses once again and their backs are even further against the wall, and this tournament is starting to become a distant dream of yesteryear or yestermonth. I mean, it just seems like this team can't get its act together one way or the other. Rebounds were almost even. I think maybe Wisconsin out-rebounded us by 1 or vice versa, 41-40 or something like that. Ace pulls down 7, 9 points. I thought Ace Bailey really wanted it today. He looked like he was fighting a heck of a lot. Wound up with 4 fouls. Was fighting a heck of a lot down the stretch, around the rim, trying to get second chance points, trying to create. But a lot of those fancy great shots that we've seen fall from Ace in the past haven't fallen and didn't fall today. Obviously, I couldn't say haven't fallen. They did last game, but didn't today. And that hurt us. And once again, free throws, sub 50% free throw shooting just continues to plague this team. And the story of the game is really you can't hit your free throws. You can't even get to 50% on free throws. You can't shoot well from the floor. I believe they were 30-something% from the floor. Wisconsin well over 50%. And that's the story of the game, especially when you get yourself in a hole so early in the game. Wisconsin clearly the more mature team, clearly able to convert and make things happen when, things got dicey towards the end of the game. Rutgers completely unable to do that. Once again, Rutgers really unsure of who to go to. No go-to guy, especially with Harper out of the game, and therefore unable to make clutch shots when they needed to. Once again, free throws just abysmal, and that's your game. Now, I found it interesting that once we had the lineup I just mentioned in the game, towards the end, we were all of a sudden closing guys out on the perimeter, and Wisconsin was passing up shots because they were covered. Wisconsin was launching up shots and missing shots because guys were covered. We were recovering when guys were trying to play off, the help and get towards the rim. We were recovering on time, getting in there, breaking up passes, covering down low, getting our hands on the ball, making things difficult. And I thought it was interesting that we finally had a lineup that showed some chutzpah down there, but end of the day, just still not good enough for Rutgers. And I still don't know who this team is, and I don't know if I'll ever know who this team is. What's frustrating is if you get Dylan Harper back, and now you have this prolific scorer who can do all these things offensively for you, I don't know that the lineup lends itself to that pace of play and that defense. You hope that it does, and you hope that you get a healthy Dylan back, you give Grant more run, you give Acuff more run, and maybe Dylan's in there in place of Jeremiah Williams. But you got a lot of guards in there at that point. Maybe that's what you need. Maybe, an Acuff handling the ball more, or rotating with J. Mike and Dylan, or, those guys off ball. Gives you more threats. and maybe that's the energetic lineup that you need that can execute that pike pounding nails type ball. But it's frustrating to see that when this team is able to perform offensively, they struggle mightily on the defensive end and on the boards. And when this team's able to execute better defensively, they struggle mightily offensively. It's just there's this coaching staff has not figured out the right combination of guys to complement each other and give you what you need to win these games. And Rutgers, as a result, now in the middle of January, is still struggling to find out what the best combination is and how they best can win games. And look, if I'm looking for productive conversation, I'm saying you need to give Acuff and Grant more run. You need to find a way to keep up that defensive intensity. If they're doing things properly out on the floor, you need to teach the other guys on the team, what to do right. And if Hayes and Martini are really giving you nothing on either side of the ball at this juncture, either because you can't figure out how to use them or they're just not doing it, you need to sit them and you need to give run to the guys that are actually giving you something. And you're going to have to just get lucky here and rattle off a ton of wins, which I think is unlikely at this point. This team is not a team. They're a collection of players that has not been fit into any kind of strategic or philosophical cohesion to form a basketball team. And we're still in the process of trying to figure that out. And that's a letdown, and that is something that should be called out. And that is something that I think the coaching staff should be reflecting upon. But season's not over, even if it's trying to play spoiler or hope a miracle happens, trying to sneak into the Big Ten tournament and do some damage, or whether that means a lower tier tournament, and the tournament is still a possibility. So you never count out a team. Never count out a team until they're officially mathematically out, and Rutgers is not out now, but it's a shame that it took this long to even figure these guys out. But I'm also not jumping on the bandwagon quite yet and saying this is the combination, this is who we have to go with. Because quite frankly, this could fall apart too. Like, we've seen iterations of the team and new rotational combinations work and then not work again. I just think this is a team that doesn't know who it is. This is a team, a coaching staff who doesn't know how best to utilize their offensive or defensive weapons, when and why and in what matchup. And this is what we're left with. But story of the game, bad perimeter defense to start off. Wisconsin also just lights out. You can't put everything on Rutgers. Wisconsin players get paid too. Wisconsin players are out here to ball out. They won 4 in a row. They're a good team. They were able to do what they had to do, and they really couldn't miss in the first half. But under 50% free throw shooting from Rutgers, not getting enough from really anybody on the floor other than Acuff and Ace as far as, actual numbers. Other guys like JaMychal Davis, and JaMychal Davis had some decent numbers there too, so I can't count him out. For all the hate JaMychal Davis got in the early in the year, he's actually probably been one of the more consistent players. Even if he's consistently inconsistent, at least you know what you're getting from him every week, every game. You don't know what you're getting from a lot of these other guys. And if I sound mellow as opposed to angry and furious, it's just because I've accepted now where we are with this team. Like, I'm not expecting much anymore. So now I'm just watching it really as an academic exercise to talk to you guys about it and just as a conversation piece, because I'm not expecting much. I'm not a rabid fan. I got a season ticket. I didn't go to the game today. I'll be at another game soon. But, I can't get animated anymore about this team. I can just look at it and try to have a discussion about it. And I think it's just interesting that you have these guys who all of a sudden can play defense, can turn up the intensity, can hustle the way you want to hustle. Offensively challenged, sure. But imagine if we started the game with that rotation and put our foot on the pedal, earlier in the game. Maybe we don't convert offensively, but that's like a vintage Pike team. We can fight through scoring droughts. If we could have held Wisconsin somewhat cooler in the first half instead of letting them go absolutely off, they still would have hit some shots because they're just talented in that way, and they were just lights out. But we could have probably put a little bit more pressure on them. And instead, we waited till the end of the game, and by then, the scoring drought was too much to overcome. The lead was too tough, and we just couldn't get it done when it was close, and Wisconsin could. And that's the difference between a team who knows who they are, who has a veteran, mature presence, and a team that doesn't know who they are and doesn't know who to count on and doesn't, hasn't sorted that out. And that's maybe partly just the nature of the beast in the new NIL era, where every team is a new complete version of itself every year, or maybe that has something to do with the coaches or whatever. I don't know what it is, but Rutgers once again falls to a Big Ten team. They drop to 1-3 in conference, and things continue to look bleak as this once highly anticipated season is becoming probably the biggest disappointment in years, if not the biggest in my memory. And this team is fast becoming a team that's maybe worse than last year. Just not a good team right now. Good pieces, decent players, but not a good team. And we wait for the next game. The homestand continues. And they're going to have 2 more cracks to try to stay in this fight. So let's hope this new lineup gives us some life. Let's hope they figure something out. Let's hope Dylan gets healthy and he can work with this new lineup as well. And let's hope that bringing his prolific scoring back gives the team a boost. And we know what we're doing. But it's a shame that, you gave Hayes and Martini all this run, and Acuff and Grant, are just now finding their footing. And again, who knows? Maybe Acuff and Grant fall off next game and nobody cares. But I was surprised to see Martini getting so much run in this game early, just like he did last game, when he really hasn't shown anything. I understand you got to get the young man going. You think he's got it maybe somewhere back there, but he's been really bad, ever since we got into the meat of the schedule, out of conference and in conference. It's been a huge, huge disappointment. And I can put some of the Hayes blame on the staff because he's a, pin-up shooter, and that he's got to get the open looks, and he hasn't even gotten that much run. But Martini, he's had some looks, and it's just not happened for him, and he's had some opportunities he's actually just blown with turnovers and whatnot. So he's really just been bad, and at this point, maybe it's time to just move forward and kind of look past some of these guys. But hey, it is what it is, man. Another loss for Rutgers. So enjoy the rest of your night, guys. And by the way, if you enjoy this content, if you enjoy what I have to say, if you've tuned into me more than once, please, on your way out, click that subscribe button. It's right here. We're getting closer to 1,000 subscribers. We're inching closer. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Night Watch continues to grow. Remember, we're also available as an audio podcast. So search for Night Watch Larry K on any of your major platforms. And make sure you're checking out the other content creators out there. A lot of good stuff. I have stuff on the horizon about football, basketball. We're working on some collaborations. So keep it locked right here. Hit subscribe so you don't miss anything. And we'll see you for the next game. Larry K out.